The air in the restaurant was thick, smelling of old wine and older money. She sat at the head of the table, Anya Volkov. Across from her sat Silvio Rinaldi, a man with the face of a vulture and the eyes of a shark. The city's jackals hadn't even waited for her father's funeral flowers to wilt. "Anya, darling," Silvio smiled, his gold tooth glinting. "A woman on the Volkov throne. Your father, bless his soul, must be spinning. He leaves his entire empire to you, and not his son?" Anya kept her face a mask of cold, bored indifference, just as her father had taught her. She was the new mafia boss. "My father is gone, Silvio, and I am here. This is my city, and this is my table." Silvio laughed, a dry, rattling sound. "This is adorable. You're playing dress-up in your father's chair." He leaned in, his smile vanishing. "Here is what will happen. You will hand over the shipping lanes, all of them, or I will take them. And I will send you to... What was your brother's name?" "Ah, yes, Milo. The artist. Perhaps you can go paint with him, in whatever gutter he lives in." The click of Anya's gun hammer echoing in the silent room was the only answer he got. "Get out of my restaurant, Silvio, now." He stared at her, his eyes wide, shocked at her audacity. He slowly stood up, brushing down his suit. "You've made a mistake, little girl. You are weak, and you are alone." He walked out. Anya sat there, her hand shaking under the table. He was right. She was alone. Miles away in a penthouse she didn't even know existed, her useless brother Milo was playing a video game. He didn't even pause his game as he spoke into his headset, his voice lazy and bored. "Silvio Rinaldi. He insulted my sister. Yes, the usual punishment. Run down his assets. All of them. And exile him. Yes, Africa sounds good. Make sure he's on a plane by morning." He clicked off his headset, took a sip of soda, and went back to his game. "Stupid rich kids," he mumbled. "They never learn." Anya Volkov, 26 years old, and as of 3 days ago, the new dawn of the Volkov crime family. Her father, the legendary Lion, had died of a sudden heart attack. In his will, he did the unthinkable. He left her, his daughter, the throne. He left her his inner circle, his soldiers, his businesses, his enemies, and his endless crushing war. The weight of that throne was a constant crushing pressure. She was trained for this. She was a master strategist. She was a lethal fighter. She was prepared for everything. Except the scorn. She was a woman in a world of savage, predatory men. The jackals were circling, the Rinaldis, the Chinese Triads. Every rival family in the city was looking at her, the girl, and seeing weakness. They saw a temporary victory for the taking. Her life was a waking nightmare of paranoia, and she had to prove every single second that she was not the weak link. She had to do it alone. Because the other wound, the real wound, was her brother, Milo, her older brother, the true heir, the one who should have been sitting on this throne. And what was he doing? Anya walked into the family mansion's east wing, her heels clicking on the marble. She found him in the art studio, covered in paint, wearing a ridiculous paint-smeared t-shirt, listening to indie rock. He was 28 years old, and he was a disgrace. He was his father's greatest shame. While she was learning to break a man's arm in 3 places, Milo was learning pottery. While she was studying their shipping lanes, Milo was studying French Impressionism. He was a playboy, a weakling, a useless, failed artist. "Anya," he smiled, his face bright and, as always, infuriatingly cheerful. "You're here. Look, I think I finally got the color right for this sunset." She just stared at him. The absurdity of it all made her want to scream. This was the man who had abandoned her. This was the man who had refused his birthright and left her to be torn apart by the wolves. "They're coming for us, Milo," she said, her voice flat, cold. "The Rinaldis were just here. They're going to try and take the lanes." Milo just kept painting, his back to her. "Ah, the Rinaldis," he said, his voice breezy. "Old Silvio, right? How is he? Still got that ugly gold tooth?" "He called you a gutter rat," she snapped. He called me a little girl. He thinks we're weak. He thinks I'm weak. Milo just chuckled, a soft, airy, infuriating laugh. Well, you're not weak, Anya. You're the Dawn. You'll handle it. You always do. He finally turned, his eyes so different from hers, so gentle, landing on her. Don't worry about the Rinaldis. Bullies like that, they always get what's coming to them. They'll just disappear, probably. You'll see. She just stared at him. Disappear? He spoke of it like it was magic. He had no idea of the blood, the work it would take her to make that happen. He was a child, a useless, deluded fool. I need you, Milo, she whispered, her voice breaking for just a second. I need my brother. I can't do this alone. He just smiled, that same kind, empty smile. Sure you can, sis. You're the boss. He turned back to his painting. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm at a really critical part. Anya walked away, her heart a cold stone of resolve. She was alone. Her brother was a fool. It was all on her. Where are you watching from today? Let me know in the comments. And smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Anya's father's office was a tomb of mahogany and old leather. It smelled of his cigars and aged whiskey, a scent that used to mean safety, but now just meant pressure. She sat behind his massive, empty desk, the leather chair so big her feet barely touched the floor. This was the throne she had inherited. She was the Dawn. But she felt like an imposter. She was staring at a digital map of the city's shipping lanes, the lifeblood of the Volkov Empire, her mind a buzzing hive of paranoia. The Rinaldis had threatened her. That, but a threat from a rival was standard, a slice of life in their world. She needed to know what was happening underneath. Jax, she said, her voice too loud in the silent, oppressive room. A shadow detached itself from the doorway. Jax. He was her inner circle, her combat specialist. He was her father's most loyal shadow, now hers. He was a mountain of a man, with a shaved head and a face that was all hard planes and zero humor. He was the man who had trained her to fight, to endure, to kill. He was the closest thing she had to a true ally. Boss, he grunted, his voice like rocks in a blender. Tell me, she said, leaning forward. What is the real talk on the street? What are my own people saying? The capos, the soldiers, the ones who aren't in this room? Jax was silent for a long moment. He didn't believe in sugarcoating. They're nervous, Anya, he said finally. They see a woman. They see Rinaldi making moves, testing the borders, and they see him. He jerked his head toward the east wing, toward Milo. They see your father's only son painting sunsets. They're saying the Volkov bloodline has gone David. Anya's fists clenched on the desk, her knuckles white. Soft. It was the word she expected, the wound she couldn't seem to close. And the Rinaldis? They're not just making moves, boss, Jack said. They're poaching. Silvio's been holding meetings, the two subdued families from the west side, the ones your father broke last year, the Gallos and the Falcones. They've already flipped. They're Rinaldi's dogs now. He's promising them a piece of our lanes. It wasn't just a threat. It was an invasion. Her own subdued allies, the ones loyal only through fear, were abandoning her because they feared her less than they feared Silvio. She stood up, the chair scraping back. Where is Silvio's next meeting? We don't know, Jack said. He's moving smart. A new voice, sharp and digital, came from the high-end intercom on her desk. I already did. Alana, her hacker, the other half of her inner circle, spoke from the small box. She was a ghost, a prodigy Anya had recruited herself from a rival's network, and she lived in the server room in the basement, her web. Silvio is meeting with the Triad elders tonight at the Golden Lotus. 8 p.m. He's trying to build a coalition. He's trying to erase us. The Golden Lotus, a neutral high-end restaurant, a slice-of-life location, and a perfect place for an ambush. He thinks I'm soft, Anya said, pulling her own custom-made slim slide pistol from the desk drawer, checking the magazine with a practiced lethal click. He thinks I'm a little girl playing dress up. She looked at Jax, her eyes as cold as her father's. Get the car. We're going to crash his dinner. The Golden Lotus was a fortress of red lacquer and gold leaf. The air was thick with the smell of expensive spices, ginger, and the sound of quiet, tense conversations. This was neutral ground, which meant everyone was armed. They didn't go in the front. Elena, her hacker, had the building's blueprints. She was in their ears, a calm digital ghost guiding them. Service tunnels are clear. Freight elevator is online. Kitchen staff is ours. Anya's father had owned the soft side of the city as well as the hard. Anya and Jax moved through the stainless steel chaos of the kitchen. The head chef, a man with a dragon tattoo on his neck, saw them. He didn't blink. He just nodded once toward the back stairwell. He's in the private room. Top floor. 4 guards outside the door. Elena's voice whispered in their earpieces. 4? Jax grunted, unimpressed. No, Anya whispered back, her hand on the gun hidden under her tailored black jacket. He means 4, plus the 2 that are in the kitchen, pretending to be waiters. She had spotted them instantly. They were capable, but they were clumsy. Their waiter jackets were too tight, bulging at the armpit, and their shoes were a military issue. This was their partner duet. Jax just nodded. He accidentally stumbled, his massive 300-pound frame crushing the first waiter against a steel prep table. So sorry, Jax rumbled, his voice a perfect cover as he discreetly drove a 6-inch blade into the man's ribs, silencing him. The man just went limp. The second waiter saw it, his eyes going wide, his hand reaching under his jacket. He never made it. Anya was already moving. She grabbed a scalding hot wok full of sizzling garlic oil and threw it in his face. He screamed, a high, thin sound that was instantly cut off as Anya kicked his knee backward, breaking the joint, and slammed his face into the same steel table. The entire first encounter took less than 10 seconds. It was brutal, it was silent, and it was her work. Clear, she whispered to Elena, stepping over the man. They moved to the stairwell. They hit the top floor. The 4 guards were there. They saw them. But they were Silvio's men, not trained soldiers. They were sloppy. Jax took the 2 on the right. Anya took the 2 on the left. It was a blur of motion. A parry, a block, a broken elbow. A single muffled whip from Anya's silenced pistol into the man's chest. They stacked the bodies by the door, invisible to the main hallway. Anya kicked the door open. Silvio Rinaldi was at the table, but the Triad elders were gone. He was alone. He was smirking. I knew you'd come, little girl, he smiled, his gold tooth glinting. I knew you were stupid. It was a trap, a villain's temporary victory. The first encounter wasn't her ambushing him. It was him ambushing her. The waiters and the guards hadn't been his real team. They were bait. The shoji screen doors behind her, at the far end of the room, burst open. A dozen more Rinaldi soldiers. These were his inner circle. They had been waiting. They had let her win. You're sloppy, Anya, Silvio sneered. And you're alone. A brutal firefight erupted. Jax and Anya were pinned. They were good, but they were outnumbered. The window! Jax roared, grabbing the heavy, solid oak dining table and flipping it over, giving them a moment of cover. They dove behind it. Bullets chewed the wood apart. Elena, get us out! Pull the fire alarm! Anya screamed into her earpiece. The earpiece crackled. I can't! Elena shrieked. They're jamming the signal! They've cut me off! Oh God, Anya! They're here! They're in the building! They're coming for me! Anya was on her own. She was blind. She was going to die. This was the real consequence. She had been defeated. Anya only survived because she was her father's daughter. She saw the massive, priceless aquarium set into the wall behind Silvio. Jax, the fish! She yelled. He understood. They both rose, firing not at the men, but at the glass. The massive tank exploded, sending thousands of gallons of water, glass, and exotic fish flooding into the room. The Rinaldi soldiers were washed off their feet, their weapons shorting out. In the chaos, Anya grabbed Jax and they jumped. Straight out the plate glass window. They crashed onto the restaurant's lower-level roof 2 stories down. Anya landed badly, her ankle twisting with a sickening pop, a scream of pain ripping from her throat. Jax grabbed her, threw her over his shoulder, and they ran. They didn't stop until they were in the armored car, bleeding, bruised, and alive. She came back to the mansion, defeated, humiliated. Silvio had won. He had proven to the Triads that she was weak, that she was reckless, that she could be touched. She limped into the east wing, her ankle throbbing, her suit soaked and stinking of fish, her pride in tatters. She was looking for Milo. She was going to scream at him. She was going to tell him this was his fault. She found him in the garden. He was painting a sunset. He was wearing a ridiculous straw hat, and her mother was with him, holding a glass of lemonade. This was the slice of life. This was the mockery. "Oh, Milo, it's beautiful," her mother was fawning. "Your father, bless his soul, never understood your talent. At least you aren't out getting your hands dirty like... She saw Anya, her face curdled in distaste. "Anya, my God, look at you. You're filthy. And you're bleeding on the flagstones. Are you trying to disgrace this family? What would our friends say if they saw you?" Anya just stared at her, her rage a cold, hard stone in her throat. "I was just ambushed by the Rinaldis' mother. I almost died." Milo finally turned, his eyes dead and innocent. "Oh dear," he said, his voice full of that light, airy nothingness. "Anya, you've got a bit of glass in your hair." He chuckled, that infuriating laugh. "And that's a nasty stain on your dress. That's a tricky shade of red. Have you tried lemon juice? Or maybe seltzer water?" Anya just snapped. "You child!" she screamed, her voice raw. Do you have any idea what is happening? They are coming for us, and you're painting." "Well, someone has to capture this beautiful light," he said, shrugging, turning back to his canvas. "Don't worry so much, sis. Bullies like Silvio, they always get what's coming to them. They'll just disappear. You'll see." Anya turned and limped away, her heart full of a fresh, hot rage. She was alone. Her inner circle was 2 people. Her mother hated her. And her brother was a useless, deluded fool. After she was gone, Milo put his brush down. He looked at his painting. "It's terrible," he sighed. He pulled out his phone, the Nick's phone, the one that wasn't a toy. He pressed 1. "Silas," he said, his voice no longer airy, but as cold and as dead as the space between stars. "Silvio Rinaldi. He made my sister bleed. Yes, the full punishment. Not just the assets. The exile. I want him on a cargo plane to a Siberian mine by midnight. And send a message to the Triad elders. Let them know who they really just insulted." The city woke up to a ghost story. Silvio Rinaldi, the man who had laughed in Anya's face, the vulture who had picked at her father's legacy, had vanished. It wasn't just that he was gone. His entire empire was decapitated overnight. The news was electric, a wildfire of hushed, terrified whispers. Rinaldi shipping files for emergency bankruptcy. Key Rinaldi lieutenants arrested in a mysterious inter-syndicate war. Sources say Silvio Rinaldi himself was last seen, looking pale and terrified, being forced onto a private cargo plane at a non-commercial airstrip. Destination? Unknown. Anya stood in her father's office, her inner circle, Jax and Elena, at her side. They were watching the chaos unfold on a dozen screens. Elena, her hacker, was pale, her fingers trembling slightly over her keyboard. "Boss, I've never seen anything like this. This isn't a street war. This is a cyber annihilation. The Rinaldi assets, their offshore accounts, their digital ledgers, their blackmail files, they weren't just stolen. They were erased, wiped clean in a way that suggests the digital equivalent of a nuclear bomb. And then all their domestic holdings were liquidated and anonymously donated to an international wildlife fund." Anya felt a cold shiver run down her spine. This wasn't her work. Her first encounter at the Golden Lotus was a failure. She had run, bleeding and humiliated. This was the work of a god. A ghost. A new villain network she didn't even know existed. Who did this? She whispered, her mind racing. Who has this kind of power, and are they an ally? I don't think so, Jax grunted, his arms crossed, his massive frame radiating unease. This ghost didn't just take out Silvio. They took out his 2 top lieutenants, and they hit the Triads. Anya's head snapped up. What? The Triad Elders, Elena said, her fingers flying across her keyboard, pulling up new reports. The ones who were supposed to meet with Silvio, they never made it. Their convoy was detained by an anonymous tip to the IRS. A full-scale federal audit of their entire shipping network. They're paralyzed. This ghost didn't just punish Silvio. They slapped the Triads for even thinking about making an alliance with him. Anya was terrified, and she was furious. She was the new Dawn. She was the one who had bled on the roof, and some invisible thing was fighting her battles for her. It didn't make her look strong. It made her look irrelevant. It made her look like a puppet. Find them, she ordered Elena, her voice a low, cold command. I don't care what it takes. Forget the Triads. Forget everything. Find this ghost. I want a name. I want a face. I want to know who is pulling strings in my city. I'm trying, boss, Elena said, her voice tight with a new professional fear. But this is next level. The digital footprints, they're not just gone. It's like they were never even there. The midpoint twist wasn't that the Rinaldis were gone. It was that Anya wasn't the one who had done it. And now she had a new, more powerful, and completely invisible enemy, or ally. She didn't know which was worse. She was no longer just fighting for her father's throne. She was now a pawn in a much, much bigger game. They were in a state of Cold War suspense. The Rinaldis were finished, exiled by a ghost. The Triads were silent, smart, and cautious. They had withdrawn all their street-level operations. They were watching her, trying to figure out if she was the ghost, or if she was just the bait. Her victory had given her no peace. It had only made her more vulnerable, more isolated. Anya spent the next week in her father's office, re-strategizing. She was running on caffeine and paranoia. She couldn't sleep. She was a capable warrior with no one to fight. Jax and Elena, her inner circle, were just as tense. This is bad, Anya, Jax said, cleaning a weapon for the 10th time that day. The streets are too quiet. When it's this quiet, it means someone is building a bomb. We need to hit the Triads now. We need to show them that we are the power, not this ghost. No! Elena snapped, her eyes wide with terror, her face pale. We can't, Jax. This ghost is toying with us. Their cyber warfare it's god level. The Rinaldis' digital infrastructure was harder than ours. The Triads is harder still. And this ghost, they evaporated it in one night. If we make a move, they'll see it. They'll erase us just like they did the Rinaldis. We have to wait. Anya was caught, trapped between her 2 best advisors. If she did nothing, she looked weak. If she did something, she might be walking into a trap set by an enemy she couldn't even see. She felt small, a little girl in a big chair. Just like Silvio had said, this was the breathing room, and she was suffocating. She needed air. She needed to see the one person in this whole cursed mansion who didn't want anything from her, who didn't look at her with a mix of fear and expectation. She found her useless brother, Milo, in the conservatory, sketching the orchids. This was their slice of life, the comedy of it all. The Dawn, Anya Volkov, was running a shadow war that could get them all killed, and her brother was drawing flowers. They're beautiful, Milo, she said, her voice heavy with an exhaustion that had nothing to do with sleep. Aren't they? He smiled, his loser facade perfect. He didn't look up from his sketchbook. This one's a Paphiopedilum. Tricky. The light has to be just right or you miss the purple. I think I'm in trouble, Milo, Anya whispered. It was a confession, a moment of vulnerability she would never show Jax or Elena. Trouble? He asked, his voice still breezy. What, like, forgot to pay the electric bill trouble because I think I did that last month? Whoops. No, she said, a small pained laugh escaping her. Like, the Triads are going to kill me trouble. And there's a ghost in the city, and and I don't know what to do. He finally stopped sketching. He put his pencil down. He turned and looked at her, his gentle, incapable brown eyes holding hers. "You're not in trouble, Anya," he said, his voice soft, but with a strange, deep certainty that cut through her panic. "You're Anya Volkov. You're the Dawn. You're the smartest, strongest person I know." He smiled. "The Triads are just bullies. And this ghost, he sounds like a good guy to me. He's taking out the trash." "Don't worry about it. You know what happens to bullies." They disappear?" she asked, quoting his words from the garden. "They always do," he said, winking. "You'll handle it. You always do." Anya stared at him. This useless playboy fool, his faith in her, his blind, idiotic, total faith, was the one thing that stopped her hands from shaking. He was a fool, but he was her fool, and he believed in her. "You're right," she said, straightening her spine. "I will handle it." "Of course you will," he said, turning back to his sketch. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm at a really critical part." What would you do if you were Anya, thinking you're in charge, but a ghost is fighting your battles? Let us know in the comment section. Anya walked out of that conservatory with a new, cold resolve. Her brother was a fool, but he was right. She couldn't wait for this ghost to save her. She couldn't wait for the Triads to strike. She was the Dawn. She would strike first. "Elena!" Anya said over the comms, her voice sharp, her Dawn persona back in full. "Forget the ghost. I want the Triads. I want their weak point. Now." "Boss," Elena's voice was hesitant. I told you, they're smart. Their network. This is a fortress. It's not like the Rinaldis. This is... "I don't care," Anya snapped. "You are my hacker. You are the best. You told me that yourself. Find me a way in. Jax, get the car. We're going to hit them where they live." This was her real consequence. Her arrogance. Her need to prove she was in charge. To prove she wasn't a little girl. Okay, I'm in," Elena said, her voice tight with adrenaline. I found a back door. A new unregistered server at their main shipping warehouse. It's wide open. Oh my god, Anya. This is it. This is their central server. It's too easy. "It's not easy, Elena," Anya said, her blood singing with the thrill of the hunt. "It's sloppy. They're villain networks. They are sloppy. They never expected us to hit back this hard, this fast. I'm going in. Jax, you're with me. Elena, shut it down. Burn their network to the ground." "But boss..." "That's an order, Elena!" Anya roared. This was the villain's temporary victory. This was the trap. Anya was too blind with pride to see it. The wide-open server wasn't a backdoor. It was a mirror. A digital trap set by the Triad's own hacker. The second Elena breached it, she gave them everything. Anya and Jax were in the car, armored and blacked out, speeding toward the warehouse. "Elena, status," Anya said into her earpiece. Silence. "Elena, talk to me." The earpiece crackled. A new voice, a cold, synthesized voice she didn't recognize. "Anya Volkov, the little girl, you are sloppy." Anya's blood turned to ice. "Who is this?" "This is Zero," the voice said. "The Triad's ghost. You just gave your hacker to us. And she just gave us your entire network. Your accounts, your safe houses, Jax's location." The lights in the entire city block went out. The car went dark. The engine died. The armored windows went black. They were in a dead steel box. "They've triggered the EMP," Jax growled, trying to break the window with the butt of his gun. It wouldn't even crack. Anya's phone, the one she was holding, buzzed. It was the only thing in the car that still worked. A text from an unknown number. "You are a little girl in a big chair," it read, "and you just lost your eyes. We have your ghost, and now we are coming for you." Anya was blind. She was trapped. And her inner circle, her hacker, her best friend, Elena, she was gone. The car was a coffin. The EMP blast had killed everything. The engine, the lights, the locks, the comms. They were plunged into a terrifying, pressurized silence, broken only by the sound of Anya's own ragged breathing. "They're here," Jax grunted, his voice a low, animalistic growl. He was trying to smash the reinforced, bulletproof window with the butt of his pistol, but the glass just spiderwebbed, refusing to break. Anya was trapped. This was her dark night. She had done this. Her pride, her arrogant need to prove herself. She had led her inner circle into a slaughter. She had failed her father. She had failed her family. She had failed Elena. Outside, she could hear the rumble of heavy vans, the sound of boots on pavement. They were surrounding the dead vehicle, the Triads. They weren't even trying to be quiet. They knew their prey was trapped. "Boss," Jack said, his voice grim as he gave up on the window. "It's been an honor." He was preparing to die. A blinding white light suddenly lit up the darkness, cutting a perfect circle around Anya's doorlock. A high-pitched, sizzling sound. Plasma torch. They were cutting them out. Anya raised her pistol, her hands shaking, aiming at the door, and then something new. A sound she'd never heard before. A high-pitched, almost imperceptible whine, like a dozen hornets. Thwip, thwip, thwip. It was the sound of silenced, high-velocity something. It was followed by the wet, heavy thud of bodies hitting the pavement. The shouting outside stopped. The sound of the plasma torch stopped. The car door was yanked open from the outside. A man stood there. He wasn't Triad. He wasn't Rinaldi. He was dressed in a flawless, jet-black, non-reflective tactical suit that seemed to drink the light. He wore a visor that covered his eyes, reflecting the dark, empty street. "Anya Volkov," he said, his voice a calm, filtered, digital monotone. "We are Nix. We're here to extract you." Anya just stared. "Nix?" "You called him the Ghost," the man said. "He prefers Nix. Now move." Jax and Anya were pulled from the car. The street was a graveyard. A dozen Triad soldiers, all neutralized, all taken down by non-lethal force. Small, spider-like drones that were now retracting into the shadows. This was the real inner circle. This wasn't a street crew. These were operators. They moved with a terrifying, silent precision that made Anya's own inner circle look like street brawlers. They weren't a team. They were a plague. Where is Elena?" Anya choked out as the man in the visor pushed her into the back of an armored, unmarked black van. "The asset Elena is secure," the man said. "She was extracted 30 minutes ago. The honeypot was sloppy. We fixed it." Anya's all is lost moment was a lie. She hadn't been defeated. She had been rescued. By the ghost she had been hunting. She was no longer the Dawn. She was no longer the leader. She was a package. The van drove for an hour, deep underground. They were taken to a place Anya never knew existed. A subterranean command center that looked like it belonged to a government, not a family. It was a vast circular room dominated by a 100-foot wall of data. It was the real Volkov throne room, and it was the penthouse from the cold open. Anya saw Elena. She was sitting at a massive computer terminal, her eyes wide, her face pale. She wasn't a prisoner. She was working. She looked up at Anya, her expression one of pure religious awe. "Anya," she whispered, pointing at the screens. "His network's now, it's not a city, it's global. The ghost, he's not a ghost, he's an ocean." And there, in the center of the room, standing in front of the data wall, was Milo. He wasn't painting. He wasn't wearing a straw hat. He was in a sharp, dark suit, his hair slicked back. He was holding a tablet, and he was commanding. "No, Arthur," he said, his voice no longer breezy, but the cold, dead, certain voice from the cold open. "You will not just freeze the Triad's assets. You will seize them. You will absorb them. You will break their bank. And then you will exile the elders. I want them in that Siberian mine by Go 400. Yes, with Silvio Rinaldi. They can paint together. Arthur Sterling, the wolf of the city. He was one of the subdued. He was his." Milo finished his call, he turned, and he looked at Anya, the useless brother, the playboy, the hidden god. This was the face slap. This was the truth. "You," Anya whispered, her legs giving out. Jax had to hold her up. It was you, the ghost, the Rinaldis, the sunset. The light was tricky, Milo said, a small, sad smile on his face. He walked over to her. You were bleeding, Anya. On the flagstones, you were hurt. Silvio, he hurt you. But I... She stammered. I failed. I led my team into a trap. I lost. No, Milo said, his voice softening. You fought. You were the Dawn. You were the sword, just like Father wanted. You were the target. You drew all the fire. He gestured to the screens. So the shield, could stay hidden. So I could do this. He hit a key on his terminal. On the screens, the entire Triad network vanished. Their shipping companies, their bank accounts, their political assets, all deleted or transferred up to her, to the Anya Volkov public ledger. The ghost didn't just fight your battles, sis, he whispered. The ghost is your inner circle, your real one. He's your brother. He tapped his earpiece. Jax, you're promoted. You're now the head of my security. Anya's team is now our team. They were in the garden, the breathing room, but for real this time. The sun was rising, the war was over. The villain networks, Rinaldis Triads, were gone. Exiled, run down, subdued. The unthinkable punishment was complete. Milo was Milo again. He was in his stupid paint-smeared t-shirt, sketching. But Anya wasn't looking at a loser. She was looking at a king, the real Dawn. Why? She asked, her voice hoarse. Why this? Why let me suffer? Why let me think I was in charge? Because you are in charge, Anya, he said, his gentle persona returning, but this time it was real. You're the Dawn, you're the face, you're the sword. That was Father's real will. He took her hand. He knew. He knew the throne was a target, a trap. He knew our enemies would underestimate the girl. He knew you were... You were strong enough to take the hits. And you, she whispered. I'm the shield, he said. I'm the hidden god. I'm the useless son, the real heir, the one he hid from everyone, the one who holds the real power, the one who protects the Dawn. He smiled, that old, kind, gentle smile. It was always a partner duet, sis. You just didn't know it. He elevated her. He didn't take her throne. He secured it. He gave her his inner circle. He gave her his power. He had always been her ally. So, she said, a slow, dangerous smile spreading across her face. The sword and the shield. I kind of like that. I knew you would, he said. He was about to say something else when his phone buzzed. The Nick's phone. He looked at it. His loser smile vanished. The hidden god was back. What is it? Anya asked. Milo's voice was cold. It's not the Triads. It's something new. Someone global. They're asking about the artist who paints sunsets, the saga hook, the real toughest enemies, the other hidden gods. They knew he existed. And now they were coming for both of them. What was your favorite part of Anya and Milo's story? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe.